空世観音大菩薩聖徳王と次元してたたのごとく捨てずして天のごとくに添いたもう。虫よりこの方この世まで聖徳王の憐れみにたたのごとくに添いたまい天のごとくおわしますと。The great Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara, the world savior, who appeared as Prince Shotoku, is like a father, never leaving us, and like a mother, always watching over us. From the beginning of this past down to the present, Prince Shotoku has compassionately watched over us like a father and stayed close to us like a mother. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm quoting two separate poems that was written by Shinran Shonin, and each of these poems is found in the collection called the Shozo Matsu Wasan, or the Japanese hymns on the true semblance and final Dharma age. These poems that Shinran Shonin wrote, some of them are meant to be read as pairs or triads. And so through several poems, Shinran Shonin develops a theme. This is what we normally talk about during the Wednesday and Thursday discussion sessions that we have after the morning service. But today I wanted to share this because these two poems help us to get a glimpse of who Shinran Shonin was and how he was able to hear and receive the Nembutsu teaching. In the first poem, Shinran Shonin tells us that Kannon Bosatsu, the Bodhisattva of compassion that accompanies Amida Buddha, appeared in our world as Shotoku Taishi. Shotoku Taishi's image is placed in this altar area here, and he is oftentimes regarded as the father of Buddhism in Japan. He is the person who almost single-handedly made Japan a Buddhist country. He was able to do this by writing a 17-article constitution that applied Buddhist principles in governance. And so he came up with expressions like wa o motte totoshi to nasu. That which is considered auspicious is harmony. And it was through this principle that he ruled the country. And so, because Japan's governance was founded on these Buddhist principles, Japan was able to flourish as a very, very compassionate government relative to its followers. So, Shinran Shonin revered Shotoku Taishi. But in this reverence, Shinran Shonin tells us that Shotoku Taishi is like a father and a mother. And in the first poem, Shinran Shonin says that like a father, he does not abandon us. And like a mother, always watching over us. But if you recall the history of Shinran Shonin, you will remember that Shinran Shonin's mother passed away when he was quite young. And at the age of 9, Shinran Shonin's father abandoned him to enter into a monastery. And so for Shinran Shonin to write these words is very, very telling of who and what he was. This is how he saw what a father should be, what a father is. And so, reading these words can very easily bring a tear to your eyes. Here is someone whose father abandoned him, and yet he is writing a poem that says, Shotoku Taishi is like my father, a father who does not abandon their child. On the other hand, Shotoku Taishi was long dead before Shinran Shonin was even born. 4 or 5 centuries separate Shotoku Taishi from Shinran Shonin. And so Shinran Shonin never was physically able to meet with Shotoku Taishi. So what does it mean for Shinran Shonin to say that Shotoku Taishi is like a father who does not abandon their child? What is that supposed to mean? Shinran Shonin, in writing this poem in his latter years, was someone who also disowned his own son because of heretical things that his son was preaching. So Shinran Shonin's father abandoned him when he was a child. Shinran Shonin abandoned his son as an adult. What could this possibly mean? What does it mean for a father not to abandon their child when this is the only experience of a father and child that he has had? Shinran Shonin, in disowning his own son, was still someone who worried constantly about how his son was doing. There are anecdotes of Shinran Shonin continuing to have conversations with his son even after disowning him. And so Shinran Shonin was constantly thinking about his child. And this experience probably helped Shinran Shonin to understand his father a little bit more deeply as well. Shinran Shonin's father abandoned him to enter into a monastery, possibly because his wife's loss was just too big a burden for him to bear. And he himself needed a path to understand what the impermanent nature of human existence really is. In becoming a monk himself, his father showed his son a different path. And having been abandoned at that young an age, Shinran Shonin, I'm sure, was very, very fervent in his studies. He was probably thinking things like, what is so important, what is so great about Buddhism that my father would choose it over me? This is something that Shinran Shonin must have felt in knowing what his father did. In disowning his own son, Shinran Shonin only did this to help his son, Zenran, understand the responsibility that he had in teaching the Buddha Dharma in the way that he did. Shinran Shonin was trying to help his son understand that Buddhism is not about how many people you can bring into the temple. It isn't about forcing people to hear the truth. The Buddha Dharma is meant for only one reason, and one reason alone. It is to help a person understand that their life has meaning, that they can live a life of great substance, that every human being is equal, and that everyone can become a Buddha themselves. This is everything. It does not matter how many people come. It does not matter how many people leave. What matters is that every person can come to the full and complete realization and understanding that life is worth living and sharing. and that there is a truth that will allow each and every one of us to fulfill this very fact. Father does not leave. The heart of a parent is always there to nurture and protect, even while we may not be able to understand what it means. Shinran Shonin saw Shotoku Taishi as a mother who is always watching over him, always besides him. This too is something that he was not able to experience himself as a child. And yet, it is because his mother passed away when he was so young that he needed to ask the question, what is this human life of ours? What does it mean to be alive? What is the point if you're just going to die anyway? These are the questions that he must have been asking himself because of what he experienced. And throughout this time, the Nembutsu kept reminding him that there is meaning to life, regardless of how long or short it may be lived. His mother's life is what motivated him to understand and explore the meaning of his. Human life does come to an end, but does that mean that it is meaningless? The answer that Shinran Shonin found was no, life has meaning, especially because it reveals the truth of impermanence. This is the same life that Shakyamuni Buddha himself lived. The truth is the truth. It is what can and will liberate us. And it is this truth that his mother was able to reveal to him in a very profound and very intimate way. And so, in writing this poem, I'm sure that Shinran Shonin did not write it thinking how unfortunate I am, how lonely I am, how unlucky I am because I did not have a mother growing up. Instead, I'm sure that he was able to discover how to say thank you to his mother for helping him to have a life, to be born, and because of this birth, to be able to meet with the Buddha Dharma. In the next poem, Shinran Shonin tells us that Shotoku Taishi was someone who, from the beginningless past to the present, continues to feel sorrow for all the suffering that we have to go through in our lives. This is a different way to see a human existence. From the beginningless past, all of those that helped us to receive this life of ours continue to live. There are people that say that no life is gone as long as you remember them, but I don't believe that to be true. A human life is precious and rare. It does not need a memory to make it so. Our memories are fallible. Our memories change. We do forget. But even while we might do all of those things, that in no way negates the sanctity, the meaning, or the value of an existence. Life is not that frivolous. Life is not that frail. We do not know who Shotoku Taishi is. And yet, through these words that Shinran Shonin shares with us, he tells us that this life of a person that none of us has ever met, will ever meet, someone that we really don't really know, that this person's life continues to have meaning and value. And here, Shinran Shonin says that this life of Shotoku Taishi is like the father who constantly watches over us. Shinran Shonin shares his experience and transforms it and tells us that a father is someone who does not leave their child, even while his father did that to him and while he did that to his son. But in this passage, Shinran Shonin is helping us to discover the deeper meaning of what a father is. Someone who does not just not leave us, but is also someone who continues to watch over us. And a mother is someone who is constantly by our side. Every life is like this, Shinran Shonin is saying. Every life has the attribute of being both father and mother. We are constantly being supported, constantly being nurtured, constantly in the presence of immeasurable life. Every life has meaning and value. And if and when we are able to discover all of this life that supports us, they are helping us to see that this is the meaning that my life has as well. My life cannot, will not, does not disappear. I will die, but that does not mean that my life becomes invisible or insignificant. Shinran Shonin, in writing these poems, is helping us to understand why Amida Buddha gave rise to the primal vow. Why Amida Buddha says that if I cannot save every single sentient being, that I will give up being a Buddha. The reason for this is because a Buddha understands just how important every single life really is. It is this life that we are being helped to discover. This life that we are being helped to appreciate. This life that we are being helped to share. There is not a single one of us here who can live their lives in vain, because that is just how important our lives are. When we are able to discover this for ourselves, that is when we completely affirm every life that has gone before us. When we are able to discover the meaning of our lives, that is when we give hope to every life that follows. This is how important this life of mine really is. And to be able to discover this life because of the vow of Amida Buddha, because of being able to hear, to say, and to share Namo Amida Butsu, is something that hopefully brings a tear of joy as well as a tear of humility into each and every one of our eyes. And through this, helping us to say Namo Amida Butsu, helping us to understand why Shinran Shonin continued to write for as long as he did, why Shinran Shonin shared so much, and why we continue to follow his example and to live our lives with gratitude, humility, and a deep understanding of just how important this moment really is.